Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Monday night edition of Torah Talk with Chanah. I hope everyone is well and gotten the announcement that we're going to have Kaddish after our discussion, our Torah discussion, for Lou Reed, who passed away. And so would like to invite all of you to join us because a Kaddish is said with a minyan. So we need at least 10 adults, and currently we have 11 online. So please stick around and make it halakhically correct for a minyan. This evening's parsha is Toldot, which comes from the book of Genesis, and it is, let me see here, Genesis chapter 25:19 to chapter 28, verse 9. And I'm going to hit the recording button so we can start recording. Yes, that's correct. Torah portion is Toldot, which means translates to generations. And to repeat for the recording, it's Genesis 25:19 to Genesis 28, verse 9. This is the parsha in which Rebecca, we met her last week when she married Isaac and he took her into his mother's tent. This time she's pregnant with her twins, Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau are twins by birth, but they're not twins in their personality. They're like a set of duality. We have the tree of good and the tree of evil. And just like Rebecca, we are usually pregnant with dilemmas. Every time we turn around, we have a dilemma of some sort that needs to be resolved. From choosing what to have for dinner, to what time to get up in the morning, to what time to go to bed, all of the above, we have dilemma. And it is a part of everyday life. Yes, Sarah's got it. Man of the tents, man of the fields. The duality of life. Female, male. Hot, cold. Upper worlds, lower worlds. And so we continue. The purpose of this parsha is to teach us how to access our lineage, how to dig for our ancestors. And we see that Abraham has dug wells in the past, and he accomplished the deep work of digging really nice, deep spiritual wells. But by Isaac's time, these spiritual wells had become obstructed. They were just not working the way they had during the time of Abraham. In fact, they were so obstructed that Isaac spends a great deal of time in this parsha wandering around and digging wells. He digs 3 wells before he finally succeeds and gets a well that connects with the source, that connects with water, that connects with the spiritual source of all, that connects with God, that connects with his ancestry. Now, each of these wells have a name. Does anybody know the names of any of the wells that Isaac dug? Any answers from anyone? Rehovot, yep, that well in English would be spacious, spaciousness. Any of the other 2 wells? Shavot, yep, that's enmity. And how about the last one? Sitna, there you go. Alex got that one. Nope, that's Sitna. And the enmity is one other well, one more well. Anybody know the name of it offhand? Esek, spelled in transliteration E-S-E-K. That is Esek, and it is the well of contention. It's okay, Sarah. We got a text in front of us, so we got it. We're good. But thank you for the names of the wells you did remember. We appreciate that. Okay, each of these wells' names describes markers on Isaac's spiritual journey towards that deep connection, that spiritual connection of water and life. We dig the well of contention. How many of us have dug wells of contention in our lives where we scrabble in rocky argument with our inheritance? Sometimes we scrabble in the rocky arguments with our parents, sometimes with our siblings. We rub up against the hard edges of family, the hard edges of legacy. Sometimes we scrabble in that rocky place of inherited diseases from parents, chronic diseases like diabetes, heart problems, arthritis. Sometimes we fight against the constrictions that these obstacles place on our lives. And sometimes we can even open to its contradictions. Does anybody want to share some of the contentions they've had in their family or their life where you're scrabbling with that rocky contention, trying to resolve that? Wait and see if anybody has an answer. What are inherited legacies that we scrabble against? Some of them are contentious. We see people who argue with each other after a parent has passed away, and they argue over the share of the inheritance that they received or didn't receive. The loneliness of early death, says Sarah. Jacob and Esau argued with each other over their inheritance. Emma said her mother feuded with her brother. As a result, she wasn't invited to her cousin's weddings. Troy says he can think of a few arguments with his father at the time. Yeah, I've had a few with my dad as well. Jacob and Esau had a few. And even though Esau was the older twin by a foot, Torah on 1 foot, he was older by 1 foot, it was Jacob that ended up with the blessing because Esau sold his blessing to Jacob for the price of a bowl of lentil stew, red lentils. Rebecca said she left behind the legacy, the religion of her parents for what she knows to be true. Her parents believed what they taught her was true, but Rebecca, in her heart, finds this to be true. Adi agrees with Rebecca that leaving behind the religion of parents for what they know to be true, that can be a very big well of contention with family members, especially if you're taking on a kosher kitchen and suddenly kids don't want to eat at their parents' house anymore because they're not kosher enough. Michael says his parents and he had a contentious argument over his heritage, which led Michael to finding Judaism. And so we have Michael here. So this is a deep well. And we don't seem to find a lot of resolution at the bottom of the well. We just continue to find contention. And so we have to start digging somewhere else to see if we can find another well in which we can find resolution. So we move on, just like Isaac did. Let's go dig another well. The well, Sitnah, enmity. Here is where we taste the contradictions of tradition within us. For those who have left one religion behind to come into Judaism, you know how strong the contradictions of those struggles are of walking away from one tradition and entering another. When we come to know the suffering and the struggles of our ancestors, along with the whole human family who has stood against one another, then, like Rebecca, we can cry out, Im Kain, lama ze anochi. If life is like this, with so much suffering, why am I here? Lama ze anochi. What is this place, God? Why am I here? What is this place? Im Kain, if this is so, if it is thus. And we find Rebecca who cries out to God with that same cry. Why? The enmity, suffering the struggles of our ancestors. We all have ancestors, and we carry characteristics from our ancestors that are in DNA. You know, they pass the DNA down to the next generation and so on until it comes into us. And so if we look backwards in time at our ancestors, we find that often they have the same characteristics and sometimes the same values that we ourselves carry in this place. What kind of characteristics do you bring forward? And we call on our ancestors in Judaism when we say the Amidah. We call on the names of our ancestors. We call Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. There you go, a well of contention at Sarah's house. Her mother didn't keep kosher, and she decided to keep kosher, and it was a bone of contention, literally. See, even Jews have bones of contention over that, because sometimes Jewish families that come from a liberal perspective, they might be a reform family, their children grow up and suddenly decide to do something like join Chabad house. And now they won't eat, these same children won't eat at their parents because their parents are not kosher enough for their children. I have a friend here in Florida who is conservative, and her children joined ultra-Orthodox community in New York. And so now when she goes to visit her children, she has to make sure she dresses according to their standards. When she attends their weddings, she makes sure she's dressed to their standards. And when she's at their home, then she follows their laws and their household rules and so on. And it's very difficult sometimes to to have your children take on mitzvot that you yourself don't practice. So what kind of suffering do we experience from our ancestors? We have the whole human family, and we stand against each other. We don't have shalom. We don't have peace in our world. We have snakes that'll bite the heel of your foot as you walk past. But what kind of enmity? Does anybody want to share what they've experienced? Rivka experienced enmity because she was having this difficult pregnancy with these twins who were battling it out inside her womb and driving her absolutely crazy, and they hadn't even been born yet. Boys. So what does anybody have that they want to share? challenges with relatives? Excuse me a second. Okay. I thought maybe that was Audie calling to make sure I'm on track, but it wasn't. Alex says that most of his life he was so content with contention that he was an enemy to himself. I agree, Sarah. That is a sad way to live, Alex, and I hope that you've been able to move past that and to find peace with yourself. Adi says things are getting better with parental units. I'm assuming I'm assuming Adi means his parents, that things are getting along better with him. So Adi says he can relate, and Alex says yes, he's been able to move forward. He's gone on to dig another well. Troy says, I can think about friends that fight and later became enemies and haven't talked to each other or do things together anymore. Yeah, and that's sad. Any other comments that anybody wants to share? Rebecca says, the feeling of unrest because situation is not in my control. Yeah, and like Alex, sometimes we do battle with ourselves because sometimes we have bad habits. I have a bad habit sometimes of procrastinating, and it creates contention within me and also enmity when I think about things that I should be doing, but I'm not getting out of my chair to do them. I just shift them back in my mind and, like Scarlett O'Hara, say, oh, Rhett, I'll think about that tomorrow. And many of us do that. Sarah is sharing that she's been estranged from her mother since the death of her father, despite numerous attempts on Sarah's part to repair the rift. Oh, that's sad, Sarah. I feel for you. That's hard. Rebecca shares that indeed she has a tendency to beat herself up for not controlling her situation, but there's really nothing I can do. Yeah, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes we just kind of have to sit and wait it out and see what happens. So why don't we move on to the third well that Isaac dug? Rehovot, the well of spaciousness. Who would like to define spaciousness for us? Anybody want to take a stab at defining spaciousness? Let's see if some answers come up. Breathing room, says Michael. The feeling that you've got room, says Sarah. Those are excellent definitions for spaciousness. Sense of freedom. A sense of maybe fresh air that suddenly, wow, and you start to feel good. Adi adds room to grow, create, expand, improve. Excellent. Those are great definitions. When we get to the well of Rehovot, that's about the very moment of birthing, creating that sense of spaciousness. We are birthing something into the world, something with room to grow, room to breathe, breathing room, something we can expand, something we can improve on. And the well of Rehovot became the well that hit water, that became a fountain that connects us to wide skies of awareness, a space in which we have room to learn, a place where we can redeem the stuff we carry from the wells of contention and enmity, a place where we can clean them in the purifying waters of the well of Rechavot of spaciousness. Anybody have something they want to share about their experience of the well of Rechavot spaciousness in their lives? And birthing for women is the closest moment that women come to death in their life. It's like right on the edge of death is when we become most aware of everything that there is. And so it's a space of awareness. So what kind of moments have people experienced? Sarah says it brings the divine of Abraham down into the field of Isaac. Yes, because this is the well that connects. This is our connecting well. We've hit water, we find that connecting. Rebecca says sometimes she finds that Rehovot well right here at OneShul. Great place to find it, Rebecca. Adi says that he has dropped the drama in his life and secluded himself in righteous things so he can grow in his Judaism. That's the OneShul experience in general, spaciousness and peace. Well, Torah is the teaching, Rebecca, but it's the teaching of the living waters. So, and the mikvah, mikvah would be your living waters of life. And Rebecca says, where better to find water than at a well? That's correct. That's where we find our life. This is Isaac's well of success. He wasn't successful when he was digging the well that was contention. He wasn't successful when he was digging that well of enmity. And yes, Adi, you're right. Wells are a great place to find a good wife. And for those who are looking, it's probably a great place to find a husband too. Because husbands and the single guys were hanging out at the wells looking for women, so the women would be hanging out at the well looking for the husbands. It was a great meeting space and the social experience of the community. Uh-oh. Alex says he's staying away from wells, not interested in husbands and wives at this time. And Troy says, yes, it is, Adi, and finding out the latest gossiping too. And Sarah says, camels. No, we will not forget to bring Ed to the well, Sarah. Alex has had his 3 wells. Are you living at the well, I hope, of spaciousness, the Rechavot well? I hope that's where you've decided to settle, Alex. Yes, Adi, your camel is thirsty. Ed needs a drink. Go find him a woman at the well. Go find him a female camel to keep him company. So now let's think about the wells and think about our parsha. We learn in this story, in this bit, we're going to learn the tragedy and deception between the brothers. Because, Alex has drunk from Rehovot, and now he enjoys the waters from afar. And he's in a good, happy place these days. So that's excellent. Put up a lawn chair and an umbrella for the sunshine, and there it is. Sarah is going to stay away from the social scene at the well. But let's talk about tragedy and deception between these two brothers, the twins. The duality of Jacob, the twin who will inherit Isaac's blessing, and Esau, the older brother who is passed by so that Jacob can get the blessing. Do you think the father only gives one blessing? Does Isaac really only have one blessing to give to his children? I'm sure some of you here have siblings, brothers and sisters. Do you think your father has only one blessing and has to select one child in the family to receive the one and only blessing? Or can parents have more than one blessing for their children? What are your thoughts? Adi has no idea. Michael says doesn't know. He doesn't have kids. You had a father, Michael. Do you think your father only had one blessing to give? Do you have siblings? Troy said he doesn't think there's just one blessing. Sarah said no, that her father had different blessings for different children. No, Michael has siblings. He has most he's never met. Alex said his father left when he was young. It might have been a blessing, one of those hidden blessings, but he doesn't know. I'm the middle of 3 kids. I have 6 myself and 2 stepchildren. Adi was blessed with a full set of hair. That's one of those genetic characteristics. Michael was blessed with his father's creativity. I was blessed with my father's stubborn sense of independence. Emma says that she has her father's sense of humor and jocular nature. Troy says, I think that at the time of Isaac, only one child got the blessing and everything. Rebecca says maybe he had one that he considered so important to Esau, he felt he could only give it once. And he may have had one equally important in his mind for Jacob. Michael says that I think there can be more than one blessing, but people have to be receptive to those blessings. That's correct. If you're not receptive to being given a blessing, it's kind of like water on a piece of oilcloth. It just washes, just slides right off and doesn't stay with you. It has to be able to permeate into you and into your soul so that you can use and receive, so you can receive and use the blessing that you've been given. Now, Esau and Jacob believed that there was only one blessing, that there was a scarcity. There wasn't enough blessings to go around, that they both couldn't have one. So they decided, they came to blows. Jacob got the blessing of Abraham, says Sarah. Esau just got the blessing of the land. Right. So there really was more than one blessing, but there was one blessing that was to carry on Abraham's mission into the future. And then there was a good blessing from a father to a son, that his life will go well, the land will produce, he'll have food, he'll get married, he'll have wonderful children, just like himself. That's the great parental blessing. I hope you get one just like you. And this family ended up being torn apart. because they were convinced that only one of the sons, one of the twins, could receive the blessing. But Isaac really did have other blessings, but only one Abrahamic blessing that was passed down. So we get this idea of limiting blessings and causing a hierarchy out of the belief that both love and blessings are finite. That love and blessings are finite, not limitless. That there really comes a point where it's a stop, where there is a winner of love and blessing, and where there's a loser. And we get that idea out of the well of contention. We argue with our inheritance. We hear sometimes kids saying that when their parents have passed away. He got everything, I got nothing. He got the blessing, I got nothing. And if life is like this, in Cain, if thus, lama ze anochi? Why am I? Why are we? But if I have siblings, if I attempt to steal the blessings that belong to my sibling, then I'm busy over there digging in the well of enmity, the poisonous well, the well where the snake bites the heel of the foot when it slithers by in the grass, the well of jealousy, envy, distrust. Nothing really good coming out of that well or the well of contention. But if we believe that love and blessing are not limited, that they continue forever, and we can't run out of blessings, and we don't run out of love. We have unconditional love. We have unconditional blessings. Then we're over there hanging out at Rahavot and the well of spaciousness. We understand that our fate is bound up with our siblings. We understand that when one of us experiences a loss, it affects ourselves as well. And we remember we're no longer thirsty at this well because we know there are enough blessings to go around. And each and every one of us can access that blessing. How many folks in this room this evening who are here for Torah Talk know that there is a tradition, a Jewish tradition of saying 100 blessings each day? Let's see, anybody aware of that tradition? Michael's heard of it. Alex does it. Audie says, I hear that. Know that I mean, okay. Oh, yeah, Alex knows that. Not that he's reciting 100 blessings, but he knows that we have that tradition to recite 100 blessings a day. Rebecca says, yeah. Macro Mint, nice to see you, says, I've heard of that. Troy says yes. Sarah says yes. So people in the group here are familiar with that tradition. How do you think it would impact your life if you were to say, start that as a spiritual practice? Start saying 100 blessings a day. And they needn't come out of just the prayer book. A prayer book's a great place to, like a diving board, it's a great jumping off place into the waters of Rechavot and spaciousness, where you can just like collect your blessings? Yes. Yeah, the Siddur is like that. It's like your diving board. You can be running back and running up and down the diving board. Then you were, Rebecca says something interesting. If we're consciously blessing God for everything we encounter, then those add up pretty quick. But not all blessings bless God. Sometimes we can use them for ourselves. We can say, I'm blessed to have a roof over my head. I am blessed to have food on the table for dinner. Yep, Sarah saying the Shemona is right. The Amidah adds up. Alex says he starts his day with the Moda Ani, and then he tries to get in as many possible during the day, but he doubts it's 100. Rebecca said, if we're consciously blessing God for everything we encounter, they all add up pretty quick. Has anybody ever tried taking a notebook around with you for the day and like chalk marks, counting them up in groups of 5? Every time you say a blessing, put another mark on your sheet. And Rebecca says, by consciously, I also mean with honesty. Right, not because it's what we're supposed to do. That's the difference between kava, obligation, and kavanah, which is intention. So to speak something with kavanah means to speak it with intention. We can get up in the morning and we can say, I'm blessed to have shoes to put on my feet. When we think about all the people in the world who need shoes and have no access to shoes, we're blessed to see the sun in the sky every morning. We're blessed to look at the trees. And is anybody familiar with the teaching of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who says that when you're seeing the leaves and the plants and the grasses and the trees bending and blowing in the breeze, that they are actually davening and blessing God for their lives, because the root of Baruch is to bend at the knees. And so when we see plants bending over, they are Baruching and blessing God for their lives as well. Yes, Adi, Rabbi Nachman, that's the one. And if we think about the fact that even the plants on the earth and the trees bend and bow and bless God and bless this world, how more so than we should add them up. And Alex says, on rainy days, I add them up. Yeah. If you haven't tried carrying a notebook around, you try that one day this week. See how many blessings you do. Try it over the course of the week and average them out. See how they average out. Rabbi Shefa Gold, I don't know if any of you are familiar with her work, but she teaches that Isaac's efforts to access those wells of his father are clearly mirrors of her own struggles to receive her Jewish inheritance, which are the treasures of Torah. And many of us struggle to find the treasures in Torah too. Yeah, I like Shefa's work. She's very deep and soulful, and so her work really speaks to me. In fact, the majority of these teachings that I'm sharing with you And the interpretations of these wells are some of the work that I've learned from her. And she has a spiritual challenge. Anybody in here up for a spiritual challenge this evening? Something to think about over the course of the week? Because next week we'll go into Yitse, which is to go forth. And maybe we can take the challenge from these wells and take them forth with us. Think about how you can take them forth. Okay, Shepard teaches that in the midst of pain and struggle, the spiritual challenge for each of us is to remember to ask us, what are we birthing? Just like Rivka asked God, if this is thus, why? Why am I? What am I birthing here, God? What is Isaac birthing when he's digging his well? What are we birthing? We know that pain narrows our awareness. Those of us in this room who have been moms and given birth, we know that when we go into labor, that kind of becomes our whole reality, that breathing. It saps our strength. It makes us forgetful because we're in it, in the moment. And our only path through to divinity is through our humanity. Because like God can create humans, we have the ability to birth humans. So that is our divinity through our humanity. When pain presents itself, remember that pain is a doorway. We can't always eliminate pain, but we can learn to move through pain to the other side. And each time we have a contraction, it brings us closer to the new life, the new birthing. So even when we're in the midst of those contractions, moving from one well to the next, moving forward, even if we are in despair, we can still dig for the treasures of Torah. We can still dig for the well of spaciousness, and we can find it. And our cries will help open the spiritual well of spaciousness. We dig through the well of Essek, of contention. We dig through the well of Sitna, of enmity. And we keep digging until we find the well of Rachavot. And there we can begin to receive the legacy of our fathers and our mothers, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and all our ancestors, all the way back as far as we can lay them in a line, all of whom struggled and birthed new life. So when we draw from the well of our ancestors, what we want to receive is the essence of our ancestors. And we want to make that essence our own. Now, there is a potential danger here. There is the danger that we can get caught up in a form that we have inherited without tasting and knowing the essence. We must let our own unique creative flow be invited and opened by our legacy. So when you start laying those wells, question your beliefs. Alex says, our words and actions give birth to joy or sadness or anger or hope in our relationships in this challenge. Is this the challenge then? Awareness, right. Make a list of your beliefs, the beliefs you have about yourself and about your world. And think about questioning your beliefs. Who are you? What's the nature of your existence? notice the contradicting beliefs that you carry within. Which ones do you want to keep and take forth with you next week when we move to Vayitzi and Jacob's journey? When Jacob goes, wow, God was in this place and I didn't even know it. So let me write that down for you so that you'll have it. Make a list of your beliefs about yourself and the world. Then examine those beliefs and think about their relationship to you and their place in your life, which are relevant. Which ones are relevant to you that you will carry forward next week in your spiritual journey, and remind you that God was in this place, Hazemakom, in this place, and we did not know or recognize. We talked about being open to beliefs and being open and recognizing blessings. Is that all of it? Yeah. And so pay attention to the contradictory beliefs that you carry inside you, just as Rivka carried her contradictory twins inside her. What do you want to birth as part of your future? So there's some notes. Something to think about this week, because next week when we do Vayetze, which is Genesis 28:10 through 32:3, Jacob will go out on a journey and be guided by dreams and visions and develop a relationship with God. So when you think about these beliefs and their relationship to you in your life, which ones do you want to carry forward on your spiritual journey? And maybe next week, if you're here, you might like to share a few of them that you brought forth. This is not obligatory homework. This is not keva. It's a spiritual exercise that you can choose to do or not at whatever level you choose to or not. Some of us like to journal. Some of us just like to think about it. Some of us just like to plain ignore it, and we sleep through our textbooks in class. Not that I've had experience with that, but and think about the blessings we have in our life, and carrying those forward. Anybody have any comments? We're down to our last 8 minutes here. So while you're thinking about some comments or questions that you might have on this reading and our discussion of wells, I will go ahead and do our pushka go up to the top of your page and click on that. Some of us thrive on challenge. Yeah, I'm one of those, Alex. Go up there and click on the box that says donate to OneShul, because your donations keep our wonderful OneShul operating. It's what allows you to participate in Torah studies like this, to participate in Adi's Shabbat, around the Shabbat table on Friday nights, and to daven as part of a group. We have Ma'ariv on Wednesdays. And so if everybody could donate $5, we've got 14 people in here. 5 times 14 is, let's see, that'd be about $70. That goes a long way to supporting OneShul and continuing to do the work that we're doing in the world with your help. No more questions? No more comments? Yes, that's correct, Michael. For those who have editing skills, OneShul and punktorah, editors are welcome. Proofreaders are welcome. I don't know how you edit images. I'm not a computer person per se. I'm a scholar by trade. So I don't know how to edit images, but those of you who do, your skills would be welcome. Adi says, yes, thank you all for your blessing helping me. Well, you're welcome. We're glad to be able to help you, Adi. So if there's no more comments, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time, and we can get prepared and move ourselves into a space to say Kaddish for Lou Reed. As I'm sure all of you know by now, he passed away at the age of 71. He was quite the well-known personage and quite the writer and songwriter and singer and so on. And he will be greatly missed in this world. May his memory be for a blessing. And we say, Amen. So there's one more blessing chalked up for today. Some of you might like to do that. Keep a record, keep a tally of blessings that you say today to see how many do you really say. You might be surprised. You might say more than you think you say, and see how that changes your life. So, recording stopping now.